I never really liked Poppy Playtime Chapter 1 or 2. Chapter 1 I thought was a bit bland, nothing really happened it felt like, and it kind of just felt like a bendy Chapter 1 ripoff. And then Chapter 2 I never played, because I didn't like the NFT stuff, and I don't like the way that this thing is. But when Chapter 3 came out, I played it, and I loved it. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was different from Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and basically all of Mascot Horror at that time. And still kind of is. Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was good. It was terrifying. And all because of the villain of this chapter. Catnap! I've always liked Catnap. It kind of felt like Catnap was made for me. Catnap was everything I like put into one character. He's basically just the Scarecrow from Batman, but if he was a cute little cat who's also terrifying, who's also purple, this is my critter right here. The first time we really see Catnap is in the intro video. There's basically 3 notable intro tapes at the start of this chapter. There's a cartoon, which starts with the Smiling Critters intro, with all of them singing and having fun, and then it cuts to the episode, which is all of the Smiling Critters besides Catnap are huddled in a little house, and none of them can sleep, until Catnap walks in, and sprays his gas all around, and they all just fall asleep while screaming, and Catnap does not say a word. He just sits there silently with his gas, like the gassy little guy he is. Then we see a demonstration of how the toy worked, and kind of how the other Smiling Critters worked. All of them had certain smells to them, and all of them could like spray gases that would have that smell. And it seemed like they would have some effect on people, which I don't know how legal that is. Maybe in the 80s it would have been. Dog Day, it seems like, would make you energetic. Bubba Elephant would make you smart, I guess. The pig would make you hungry. And Catnap would make you fall asleep. But something went wrong. The Catnap toys had to be recalled. Because apparently when they made children fall asleep, the children would have nightmares and they'd be crying in their sleep. And all we knew were that the children were not safe. And then the game starts. And that's when we get our first look at Catnap. At the start, he's just carrying us away from the train wreck at the end of Chapter 2. And he dumps us in a little tunnel where we fall into Chapter 3. And throughout this chapter, we don't really see him until the end, but we just see him in little corners just stalking us. Sometimes when we walk in a room, we can just see like his tail run out of the room, like he was in that room before. We see him murder Bunzo, but that's all we see. And adding to his mysteriousness, in all of those like cardboard cutouts of other characters than the Smiling Critters, they're all very loud. They all talk like cartoon characters. But if you go to Catnap's and you click on his button, all you hear is snoring or breathing noises. We do not hear a voice at all. We don't hear anything. I don't think we ever hear what his cartoon voice is supposed to sound like in this whole game. Then like after the first third of the game, we get this one section called the Welcome Home section that gives off Arkham vibes. Arkham Asylum, I think specifically. Where we're just walking around this little house place, but keep switching around us. The hallways keep just going different directions. Nothing makes sense. There's a bunch of distorted voices talking to us. Writing on the wall that says guilt haunts you. And then we get to this one room with this one tape.
And should you come back years later, your conscience finally getting the better of you, welcome home.
This scene was so cool. This is what made me realize that Poppy Playtime Chapter 3 was actually good. Because I was skeptical, especially when I saw this design. Because this design kind of looks silly. This nightmare huggy wuggy thing. It definitely looks like a mascot horror character. And that is not a compliment in this situation. But they used the design good. When you look at the design in picture, it does not look great. But when you just see that design crawl out of the TV like it did, that's awesome. It reminds me of my favorite movie, Sinister. It's probably meant to be more like The Ring, which Sinister is also inspired by. But still, in my headcanon, this was based off of Sinister. And I like Sinister. That's my favorite movie right there. Then, later, I'm pretty sure it's after the teacher section, we get the Dog Day section. I don't know if it's called the Dog Day section, but it starts with us going through a little playground area. And these little critters are after us. And they're not intimidating at all. There's tiny little guys. They're really cute. You can shoot them. Very fun. Until you meet Dog Day, who claims that he is the last of the Smiling Critters. Barely, because he has the bottom half of his body just chopped off. Where there seems like a belt just carrying all of his insides in there. If that belt was gone, it would all just fall out. It's violent. And he tells us that we need to run because he's about to die. Because all the critters just crawl inside of him. some of them go through his eye. It's brutal. And then he chases after us, but he doesn't want to. He's being like puppeteered by the little critters inside of him, and we can hear him choking as we're running away. This scene was terrifying, I thought. And this scene really just shows how scary Catnap is, because this is Catnap's doing. Catnap did this. Then we see the prototype shrine that Catnap made, which is, I think, our first time seeing that Catnap worships the prototype. He is a cult leader for the prototype. And he made this whole shrine just for the prototype, which kind of doesn't really look like him at all. This child sucks ass at art. He should quit, but that's okay, because we kind of get a reason of why he worships the prototype. Basically, Catnap's backstory is he was a child named Theodore, an orphan child, who stayed at the Playcare, which is basically an orphanage. But Playtime Co. is corrupt, so they were using Playcare to murder children and make toys out of them. And that's what they did to Theodore. They turned him into Catnap. And with Miss Green's experiments, they basically made him forget his name, and now he just knows himself as Catnap. And Playtime Co. made him make other children fall asleep so they can kill them. They killed Theodore to make him help kill other children, who he probably knew before. And then, I guess, the prototype kind of made him start worshipping him, and he helped with the Hour of Joy and helped murder people. Murder the workers. Because he's just a child. He was manipulated by the prototype, definitely. Which is why he's worshipping him. Which makes it even more sad when he dies at the end. After the boss fight, after we basically burn Catnap, and he's all gray, the prototype reaches his hand out for Catnap and murders Catnap. But Catnap's death wasn't even lame, like Sammy Lawrence, where he got betrayed by his god and was murdered by his god. He bowed down to the prototype as the prototype just murdered him, which makes Catnap way more intimidating, but also makes the prototype terrifying, because he just killed probably the most scary villain that Mascot Horror has, and Catnap let him kill him. And then he wore his fur as a fursuit and took his gas. He took his gas! And that is why Catnap is my favorite villain of Happy Playtime. And I feel like no villain has been close to being as good as he was since. Doughy was supposed to be a surprise, but was revealed because you could just see that he was the villain from the store Steam page right there. And his design was leaked early through merch. The Doctor was just sidelined halfway through the chapter 4. Miss Green was okay. I think she's kind of hideous when she becomes a toy, though. I think the only character who has a chance of being as good as Catnap is the prototype. And I like the prototype. I made a whole video about how much I like his design. But I don't know if he can be as good as Catnap. I don't know if anyone can be as good as Catnap. Because I think that Catnap is one of the best villains of Mascot Horror. And that's all. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you think anyone is better than Catnap, because I don't think so. And yeah, also subscribe if you want more videos too. And leave, because this video is over. Goodbye.